Look, you heard it here first. If Max Brosmer gets up to Big Ten play speed, look out.
Hey,
You are Locked On Golden Gophers.
No matter what we're going to do here, we're just going to keep rowing.
Your daily podcast on the Minnesota
Whatever
Golden
turns out,
Gophers.
however it turns out, we're just going to keep rowing.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
We're just going to keep rowing, and keep rowing.
You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. And today we're talking about Gophers quarterback Max Brosmer, and if he gets up to play speed of the Big Ten, speed of the game, I'm telling you right now, this Gophers team could sneak up on a lot of people. But we're going to talk about that, and then we're going to dive into how this safety room could shake out with Tyler Nubin officially going to the NFL, and then finally Jaylen Varner hits the transfer portal, what that could mean, what it could mean for the Gophers roster moving forward. We're diving into all those thoughts today, so be sure to hit subscribe over on YouTube so you don't miss any of your daily Gophers content moving forward. Also hit like wherever you get the podcast, leave a 5-star review, help others find the show. We're building up this Gophers community for a great Gopher season in this upcoming 2024 year. Now let's dive into what this 2024 season could hold if Max Brosmer gets fully up to Big Ten speed, because look, I don't have to hype you up on Max Brosmer, because by this point you have heard probably a lot about the Gophers' new quarterback. You've heard about his accolades, you've heard about the production, especially over these last 2 years, nearly 8,500 pass yards on 62% completion, career completion percentage, 68 touchdowns, 25 interceptions, almost a 3-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And we also have now seen him in his element, in the zone, working with these teammates, hearing their praise for him, and have seen him lead and others embrace him. He became voted on by his teammates as a captain within 3 months of being around this team, less than 3 months. And on top of that, he was praised by the alums that he worked with heading into their pro day about how excited they were, how the Gophers were in good hands, how he was helping direct and guide and walking them through how the ball will be coming out and where they should be expecting it and what their placement was and this and that and left and right and sideways. He was getting it done. Now, it's been very apparent that he is a high IQ field player. He can get through his progressions and he has the production to back it up. But now we've mentioned how he knows, it's been mentioned by his teammates, by multiple teammates, not just one teammate, but multiple teammates currently on this roster, on how he knows the playbook more thoroughly and better than some players who have had the playbook for multiple years. And that is a guy you want to play for. The guys want to play for him. They want to do well for him. They want to help him thrive and him to help them thrive. Plain and simple. Now, if you judged him based solely off his first open practice, which was the Dinkytown Athletes practice, the second practice of the entire spring session, then you probably weren't left wowed. You weren't left, oh my gosh, this guy, he has a huge upside, his cannon of an arm or anything like that. You weren't disappointed, but you weren't wowed. It was just like, oh, okay. But the whole offense wasn't really clicking, which makes sense because you have a new quarterback, you have a new playbook for that quarterback, you have adding in the headset communications for the first time in the college landscape, you have a new center being your leader of that defensive or offensive line, and you have a quarterback who is getting up to speed at that FBS Big Ten play speed, which is far, far faster than the FCS. But all of those team periods, drives, they quickly stalled out in that first practice. It wasn't looking good. The offense couldn't get it going. The defense was flying left and right and really stuffing the run game, stuffing the pass game, and giving the offense fits. But I looked at that final practice availability where you got to see the drives moving, you got to see first downs getting picked up, you got to see team periods where they drove the whole field and got a score or got a field goal. There might not be the big flashy play, but the right plays were made. The check down for 3-yard gain, check down for a 4-yard game, a run to get the first down, a check down for the 4-yard game, getting the firsts and keeping the ball moving. Now, it might not be the sexy way to play, but it was often the right look, and the reads were coming quicker. And in the end, this play style is what can potentially help drive defensive backs closer in to the box and closer to that line of scrimmage. And then hopefully as they draw closer, there will be the opportunity they're going to draw closer to try and stop the short passing game or to stop the run game. And as they do that, that's when you can set them up for a big shot play down the field, hopefully a home run play that you can hit a touchdown on. And once a few of those big shot plays, big explosive plays start to hit, all of a sudden the defense has to get back and respect it. And all of a sudden you're opening up the ground game, which is where Minnesota wants to be in the first place, consistently and constantly keeping a defense on their heels, especially if Minnesota plays up tempo. So if you add all that together, that is something that can be intriguing in this Big Ten landscape with so many teams across the board. So the prospects of Max Brosmer are extremely intriguing on that front, but not just for us fans. Even the Senior Bowl and the committee that puts that together, Jim Nagy tweeted out that the Senior Bowl team recently tweeted out their power conference quarterbacks watch list, which included Max Brosmer of 16 power conference QBs that they had on that list. Now, steam is gaining for this offense, and if Max Brosmer continues to get comfortable and get himself up to that play speed and the timing of it all early, then this could be a really fun year for Gophers fans. And not only that, but it could be queued up really well for the season as well. Now you have a really big challenge in North Carolina here at home versus North Carolina in game 1. But then you have 2 tune-up games, which you should win by a large margin. So if you can go out there and play with a competitive team and find a way to win at home, and then you go and you have these tune-up games to get right at home once again, back-to-back weeks, and really get things cleaned up, get up to play speed and get things going. If you can do all that, then you'll be clicking. Hopefully you'll be 3-0, firing on all cylinders, and it tees you up for a big week 4 versus Iowa at home, a big rivalry game in which you want to keep Floyd back-to-back years and keep the trophy home. So overall, the high stakes, but it could be a great reward for the Gophers if he can get up to play speed quickly with a true test in North Carolina and then some cleanup games right after that. Now, if Brosmer is up to play speed by then and clicking by then the Gopher season could get very interesting very, very fast. Now, I want to talk about the other side of the football as well on the defense, because Tyler Nubin was that leader of the defense. He was the heartbeat. He was the energizer. He was the playmaker. He was the turnover king. And he's gone. He is off to the NFL with the New York Football Giants. But who is going to replace him in his production? Who is going to take over the safety room? I think both slots could be up for grabs. And we're going to talk about that coming up next. First, I want to talk to you about our friends over at Gametime, because Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace for the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. And prices on the Gametime app actually go down closer as the tip-off goes. So with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guaranteed, Gametime takes the guesswork out of getting NBA tickets. Now, like I said, they have those last-minute deals to save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, you name it. Plus, you can see your seat in a panoramic view before you buy your tickets. But the best part is that they have the lowest price guaranteed. So if your tickets aren't, those seats that you're looking at are not the lowest price out there and you notice it, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. So it's definitely worth downloading the app, getting a feel for it, getting a look at all the offerings, features, and deals that they have going on, and taking the guesswork out of buying tickets. On top of that, they have ticket coverage where your purchased Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So try it out today. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first order. Again, download the Gametime app today. Terms and conditions apply. And again, once you download the app, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And we're going to talk about our friends over at FanDuel because, like I said, with those NBA playoffs, with you getting your tickets at Game Time, you can also bet on every single one of those games. If basketball isn't your thing and you're more of a hockey person, those playoffs are going on too. Baseball's going, and you've got the golf circuit going strong right now. So if you are looking to make a bet, then you definitely should head on over to FanDuel, which is America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. So that means if you go out and you make a bet, win or lose, you're getting $150 in bonus bets. So go to fanduel.com/lockedon. Again, that's fanduel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win on the safe, secure, and super easy to use app of FanDuel. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, Gophers fans, let's talk about who's got next at safety because Tyler Nubin is gone, and he has been the staple of this safety room for the last 4 years. He's an All-American player from last year. He is an All-Big Ten Conference second-team player last year. And aside from last year, Jordan Howden was his partner in crime for the 4 years as well. So you have two NFL level safeties that are no longer leading your back end. And how do you respond? Now, in my opinion, no one commanded that Howden spot enough last year to be a lock as the starter this year. Now, the player who played the most snaps in that role was Darius Green. He was solid in run coverage for the Gophers, but he was poor in pass coverage. He had the second lowest coverage grade of all the players with over 100 snaps for the Golden Gophers. He was credited with giving up 5 receiving touchdowns, and the NFL passer rating against him was a 133.0. So that is really bad when it comes to pass coverage. And so Darius Green didn't do enough to lock loaded certified starter, in my opinion. Now, another player who took a lot of snaps at the safety was Aiden Gooseby. He graded poorly across the board as well. He one-upped Darius Green by being the lowest coverage grade of the players with over 100 snaps. And on top of that, he was credited with 2 touchdowns on the season, but he had an NFL passer rating against of a 151.4. So both of those guys struggled, especially in pass coverage. And that's why I think they might not be the answer right away as your long-term starter or even this year's starter. Now, nothing says that they can't grow, they can't continue to grind, they can't keep on stacking wins for themselves to put themselves in that position, but I don't think it was locked based off of their play from last year. Now, Kerry Brown played last year. He played across the final 2 games, and he actually did pretty decent overall. He had a coverage grade of a 62, which is about average, and he had a tackling grade of an 81.3, which was second highest on the Gophers team, only behind Tyler Nubin. Now, he also had a fairly clean spring, and I think he has earned a shot to be at the top of the list in the conversation. I think he plays more of that Howden role, so I think he should definitely have his name at the top of the list for the Gophers, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's getting the first look at the ones in the fall, and at least in the conversation for the battle to start at that position. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they have Darius Green start right away, or if they have those two battle being as Darius Green was the starter for last year, but I don't think he did enough to set himself apart, and I think Kerry Brown could definitely be on his heels there. So overall, I think the spot needs to be re-earned, if anything, by Darius Green, not just given the benefit of the doubt. Now, another player is Coleman Bryson. He's a name to watch in this battle because he is better in that Tyler Nubin type role. But obviously, he wasn't able to play that role this past season because Tyler Nubin was obviously playing. But if you look at the year prior where he was able to get in because Tyler Nubin missed the Wisconsin game and then didn't play in the bowl game, Coleman Bryson looked really good in those moments in his natural spot. He graded out as a 73.7 overall and a 77.5 in coverage, and also a near 80 grade in tackling, and won the Pinstripe Bowl MVP with a pick 6 to add to it all. He's definitely someone you should keep in mind. Now, if there were a game to be played this week, my guess would be the strongest pairing, in my opinion, would be Kerry Brown in that Jordan Howden role, and then Coleman Bryson in that Tyler Nubin role. Now, I could see the coaching staff being stubborn and leaving Darius Green in the Howden role like last year, but I wouldn't personally. I would kind of like some fresh faces, but also who's been playing the better, more consistent play, the cleaner play, and all fronts, not just in the run game, but also in the coverage game as well. Now, one thing to not forget in this safety room. Well, one name I didn't mention, Garrison Monroe. He could be someone who could work into the rotation, but the name that you cannot forget is Coy Parrish is joining this team, and he was the All-American Bowl MVP for the high school All-American Bowl players this offseason. So he has the talent to play right away. Now, that being said, that is a lot to ask of a true freshman who will have just received the playbook and wasn't here in the spring, will have a lot of catching up to do. But if none of the veterans are officially securing the job early in the fall, maybe Coy could sneak his name into the conversation. Otherwise, he might be a candidate that could be a player that steps in as a starter if someone isn't up to par midseason or due to an injury, if that were to happen in this season. But overall, this safety room is probably the most wide open, in my opinion, among all of the position groups on both the offense and the defense. And it's something that we will definitely keep our eyes posted on and keep you posted on as the fall approaches with what we're seeing with this depth chart, how things are shaking out, and names that could be putting themselves at the forefront. We're going to have all that for you here at Locked On Golden Gophers, so be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss any of that moving forward as we learn more. But the final thing we have to talk about today is none other than Jaylen Varner hitting the transfer portal. A man who just joined the Gophers team in January is already on his way out after the spring. I'm going to talk about why that could be and also who could step up in his wake coming up next. First, it's time to turn the game off. It's time to put a pause on it all. And we're going to talk about our friends over at Monopoly Go, because I know what you're saying. Look, you've already told me about Monopoly Go, and we've already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff about this game, and it's completely free. And I know that you'll have a blast trying this game out. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with your friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. And the more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, including stickers that you can trade with your friends to complete albums. On top of that, you can get new playing pieces that you can use across Go. Feels super exciting because there's new things popping up with it every day, and it's constantly changing with tournaments and challenges. And they have a ton of unique mini games. It's something that you can never get sick of because you always have something new to try, and there's always timed events that help you win big with massive multipliers for everything you win on or rent frenzies. So there's always something fun to discover with Monopoly Go. So go get off the bench and go download it for free at the Google Play or App Store. Game on with Monopoly Go. All right, Gophers fans, we're wrapping up today's show by talking about Jaylen Varner, who officially hit the transfer portal. Now, if you aren't familiar with him, I don't blame you. He's only been on the team for like 112 days, and he's already decided that he's going to re-enter the transfer portal. Now, why could that be? Well, first off, Jaylen Varner is a wide receiver. He has 1 year of eligibility left. So a few factors leading into that is probably has to do with that. He has 1 year of eligibility left. Now, the starters seem to be fairly likely to be Daniel Jackson, Le'Meke Brockington, and Elijah Spencer. Now, you can pencil Daniel Jackson's name in there. He's locked, loaded, and ready to go. And I think Le'Meke Brockington has done enough to insert his name into that conversation as a locked and loaded starter as well. I think Elijah Spencer can get there. There were some drops here and there throughout the spring, but the talent-wise, I know he is right there, and this Gophers team has a lot of belief in him. So those are kind of your starters. Now, on top of that, Varner got hurt in the early spring in that Dinkytown athletes practice, which was practice number 2 overall. And he was not practicing in the other 2 open availabilities that I was able to attend. One of those was in the final practice week. So I don't think he really had any opportunity to put his name into the conversation to even get one's looks or be one of those fringe guys to get on the field in certain packages or anything like that because he wasn't practicing. And in the meantime, guys like Nuke Hayes came alive in the spring and earned a shot to battle with some of those wide receivers. And Kenrick Lanier was already working with the ones and getting ones reps ahead of Jaylen Varner, with Daniel Jackson rehabbing and not really working in those live team reps. So those are two young guys that are fighting for that next man up and potentially to be a starter in 2025. And Minnesota goes beyond all that. Minnesota goes and brings in Tyler Williams, a redshirt freshman who is transferring in from Georgia. So, as a Georgia player, he has high upside. He has a lot of talent, being at a program that has been dominating the football landscape over these last 3 years. And that's a lot of young talent to compete for even the 2 spots on this year's team. And with only 1 year of eligibility left, it just doesn't likely make sense for him to stick around and stay put when he couldn't put himself in the position to really compete for time due to injury. So you add all that up, plus Varner is a player coming from the D2 level at Emporia State the last 4 years. Now, he spent 1 year in his very first year at Missouri as a defensive back before transferring and going to the D2 level, but he isn't for sure a locked, loaded Big Ten type player. We don't know that for a fact. And he had 10 touchdowns in 2022. So there's a lot of high scoring upside with him. But last year was even better than that for him. It was his best year by far because he had 12 scoring touchdowns and he had 1,008 receiving yards. So he could be a rock solid receiver, especially for maybe a G5 school where he could go and be a starter out there. And his first offer when he hit that portal again was with Western Kentucky. So best of luck to him. I hope he finds a spot where he can land, be productive, and really live out his final year of college eligibility. But for the Gophers, this means it's time for some of those young guys to step up and put their names in the conversation, work for some live snaps on the field behind the 3 starters. And this gives them the opportunity for a few of these young guys, Nuke Hayes, Kenrick Lanier, TJ McWilliams, to try and prove that they got next. And they can not only answer the call this year and get some light minutes, some light snaps, some light opportunities, like we saw from Brockington in 2022, then working into a starter spot before getting hurt last year. Maybe they can have a similar role where they're working into some sort of position, or maybe they outproduce one of these older guys and they find a way to get on the field and start to be a face of that wide receiver room moving forward. So definitely some young talent to be looking forward to. Tyler Williams is another name to mention. Christian Driver, someone I didn't mention on today's show. A lot of young talent in that wide receiver room, and now it's time for them to try and realize that talent and prove that they can be the future of this wide receiver room moving forward. That's going to do it for us on today's episode of Locked On Golden Gophers. I hope you appreciated it. I'm probably going to do some sort of show late tonight for tomorrow, because tomorrow I will be out and about. But I also might have a little snippet coming from our talk with Locked On Giants as well, talking about Tyler Nubin. So we'll keep you posted on all of those, and we'll post them here at the Locked On Golden Gophers YouTube or wherever you're listening on audio platforms. I appreciate you. Please leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to the podcast, and hit subscribe over on YouTube so others can find the show. Until then, I will see you then. Row the boat, Sky, you might go Gophers as always. And don't forget to hit subscribe.